Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight. Now, if you're a serving police officer and you're looking to advance into a specialist role, this video is for you. Actually, if you're looking to join the police, you might pick up some ideas here about how to hack the application process. And when I say hack, what I mean is that we're actually looking at things like the job description to make sure that we put forward the best version of ourselves that meets the demands of that job description. That's what I mean by hacking. So one of the members of the Serving Police Officer group, a development group just for serving police officers, and you can find the link below if you want to join it, has indicated to me that he would like to join the road policing unit for Bedfordshire. So what sort of things do I need to do to prepare for it, to make sure that eventually my application form is awesome, basically. So they've sent me the job description there. So I've gone through that and hacked the process, looked at the things that you'll be doing. I've got to say, in terms of behaviours, it's not huge on that. So I'm having to sort of interpret the sort of things that they'll be looking for in the ideal candidate. Because remember, when you put forward an application form, the only purpose of that application form internally for a specialist position is to get an interview. That's it, full stop. And then when you get to the interview stage, you can hack the process even more, but you'll have already started developing the evidence for the process a long time before. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll start preparing for that a couple of months before the application forms come out. No, now is the time. Doesn't matter where you are in your career, now is the time. So whether it's road policing unit, tactical aid unit, firearms officer, FLO, public order specialist, promotion, it doesn't matter what you're aspiring to, now is the time, so that you develop brilliant evidence against the things that the organisation values in that role or rank, so that when it comes to the application form, when it comes to the interview, you've got a lot to talk about. You become the perfect candidate. Is that making sense? This is what I mean about hacking the process. So let's take a look at the role profile for road policing constable for it's Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. So you'll be covering a lot of ground there. Now, forgive me whilst I look at my notes. Key responsibilities: providing initial response to road traffic collisions, deal and investigate with them, intelligence gathering, really important, participate in pre-planned operations, and arrest individuals and process them. So a couple of things I'll be doing now to make sure that I am in a position to apply and get through the application form process, as I'll be tailoring my activities at work to meet the needs of the particular role. So one of the things it talks about is essential knowledge of road traffic legislation. So I would seriously geek out on this. You know, I've done this in my past. You know, one that wants to go into special branch, I geeked out on the sort of things that special branch got involved in. When I wanted to go for promotion, I geeked out on the things that I would need to be aware of to advise my officers as a newly promoted sergeant. When I went for CID, I geeked out on legislation to do with crime and more serious crime. Whatever it is that I was going for, I geeked out on that legislation. And I don't, when I say geeked out, I mean seriously geeked out. So now is the time to start building up your knowledge of road traffic legislation. And what I'd suggest is that you put yourself forward, and this will link in nicely with the competency of, let me just dig it out, innovative and open-minded. Put yourself forward on your team, if you're on response or neighbourhood or wherever you might be, as the go-to person in terms of road traffic legislation. So whenever anyone comes across anything to do with road traffic legislation, you're the go-to person. You become an informal Spock, if you like, a specific point of contact for anyone on your team who wants any advice or guidance, including your supervision on road traffic issues. And that's easily done. You know, what I'd suggest is that every day you do something to explore a new type of legislation. So I can remember years ago, this is how I studied for my sergeant's exam. I would go through the manual of guidance, that's what it was called back in the 80s, and I'd pick out a piece of legislation, and that was the legislation I was going to focus on for that shift or for that week. And I'd go out and actually find examples of where that legislation was being broken, And my poor sergeant, good old Don Blackhurst, used to get the green cards, numerous green cards, process reports for all sorts of weird and wonderful legislation. I can still remember him calling me in his office about the new builder skip regulations that had changed just a week before. So I went out and processed a few people. Everyone just got cautions. It was just my way of learning. You know, I learnt by doing. And I know you might be thinking, oh, we don't have time for that. Hey, we had the same discussions years ago. I made time. I made time for my development. If you can't make time for your own development, you'll get to the end of 30 years, look back at it and think, hang on a minute, I missed so many opportunities. Let's not miss those opportunities, folks. All right, where was I? Okay, so I'd geek out there. You will have to become an FLO in the role. So I would ensure that I know everything about being an FLO, and I'd start putting myself into the sort of situations that would require liaison with an FLO, family liaison officer, in case any of you are thinking, what's that? Now this ties in with the competency of being emotionally aware. So what I'd start doing is I'd volunteer for or find incidents to deal with that involve people from different backgrounds who are under significant emotional strain. This is the intentional process that you need to go through, by the way, in case any of you think, does this not sound like I'm engineering something for my future? Yes, that's exactly the point. So whenever an incident crops up and you look at the screen at the station and you see there's an incident there, if you can, shout up for it. If it involves people from different backgrounds, maybe different nationalities, who are going through significant emotional strain that might require an FLO or further liaison down the road, certainly where you've had to adjust your approach to take in cultural norms, religious norms, differences in language, whatever it might be, you've had to adjust your approach to deal with someone's trauma and the fact that you've had to approach a cultural norm that they have in a different way, something like that. So that's ticked off. We take ownership. It's ticked off the innovative and change, open-minded. Sorry. Now, what else do we have to do? Deal with and investigate. So I would intentionally put myself forward for complex investigations. You know, if you spot a complex investigation come in, you're the one that's shouting up for it. And it goes without saying that whenever an RTC comes in, you're the person who's shouting up for it. Any patrol available for, you're the one that's shouting up for it. So you start building up a reputation with your supervision as not just a go-to person with the legislation, but you're the one that's always volunteering for the jobs that, quite frankly, a lot of response officers will be saying, you know, the first thing they'll be saying is, where's traffic? A traffic not nearby. Or response RPU, or whatever you call it, traffic. You still call them traffic? I don't know. Depends on the force, I guess. So you're the one that's putting yourself forward for those jobs and getting involved and looking at taking those jobs as far into the job as possible before you have to hand it over to the road policing unit. Or perhaps you don't, because as you start building up experience, they start getting to know you as well, that you're the go-to person on a shift in respect of anything to do with road policing stuff. You start getting known to their supervision, and that plays a part. You know, I don't care what anyone says, that plays a part. Okay, the interview itself will be all run above board. There'll be someone there from HR to make sure that it's run fairly, but they know who they want. Trust me, I was an inspector. I used to go and handpick people and invite them to come and apply to the teams that I was on, and the interview was run fairly, but there might have been a bit of bias there, because I was trying to handpick good people for my team. That's just the way of the world, folks. It's never going to change. All right, so what else would I be looking to do? Another part is taking part in operations. So I'd do more than just participate in operations. I would look to see what I could do to actually run operations. And I know you're going to say, we're too busy, we're too busy, we're too busy, we're too busy. Listen, this is your development, it's your future. Make the time, find the time. Speak with your supervision. As a sergeant and an inspector, sometimes if I felt as though an officer was doing something really important that day, I'd just get in touch with comms and say, you know, unless a plane falls out of the sky, this officer is considered to be at the appropriate state where there's dealing with an incident all day, and it's at my behest. And comms aren't going to argue. They're just going to mark them off as not available. If there's 10 officers shown available, they will utilise all those 10 officers. If there's 9 officers shown available, at the start of a shift, they will only utilise 9 of them. And so there might be a little bit of give and take there, because what you don't want to do is build up a reputation in the team as, hang on a minute, they're always slacking off doing things that are going to advance their career. What about my career? So there might be a little bit of work on the emotional bank account to do there, to ensure that when you do those sort of things, when you take part in those things, that you do some form of investment with the rest of your team to make sure that you're helping them as well. Helping them before they need to ask for the help. So because you're geeking out on road traffic legislation as an example, or getting really good at road traffic collisions, you're the one that can go and help support other people who are landed with those sort of things. And it might not be their thing, but they've still got to deal with it, haven't they? So let's tick off that, volunteering for operations. Deliver, support and inspire. One of the things I'll be looking to do there is to take on those new challenges, to take the lead in operations whenever you possibly can, to take on key roles within any operations that you take part in, as opposed to just being the passive person who just gets briefed and you go and do what you're told, and then you come back and debrief it, and that's it, job done. So you're the one who's a lot more proactive. This will get you noticed. So what have we done so far? Right, so intelligence gathering. I think this will link in nicely with analyze critically. So I think one of the questions you get asked in your application form is about making difficult decisions, where you've had to account for that decision to others, that type of question. That's appeared all the way through my career, in every rank, in every speciality, and even when I was going to join the police, asked the same question. It's a key behaviour. It's within the role of analyse critically, and it's also in the value of transparency. So don't forget those values as well that could creep into the process, not just the competencies. So where are we with this? Yeah, I would start looking at making decisions, not just based on information that's being provided to you, but intelligence gathering. So you're actually going out there and you're gathering information and intelligence about a particular problem that needs dealing with, that's endemic in an area, that's not going away. I'm not talking about a one-off couple of whatever it might be over a week. Something that's particularly difficult, endemic, problematic in an area where you can demonstrate you're adding value, but you are gathering intelligence and you're putting it into the system, and then you're using that intelligence, not just waiting for someone to look at the intelligence and put together an intelligence pack for you and then give you that information. What I'd be looking to do is make sure that you're proactively using that intelligence in order to make really good decisions, to add value ultimately to communities, to make them safer places. And I'd really focus there on anything to do with vehicles. Everything and anything to do with vehicles. Particularly denying the use of the roads to the criminal element. Anything around that, I think would go down really well in your application form and your interview. Now remember, if you're in a road policing unit, you are not just being sent to jobs all the time. My expectation of road policing unit, I don't think it's any different to any of the supervisors or managers. Bear in mind, I'm not one now, but I was one for more than half of my career as a supervisor and manager, a sergeant and inspector. But my expectation of road policing would be that, you know, they are proactive. They're the active problem solvers, and they've got one eye on road traffic matters, but they've got the other eye on the proactive use of their capabilities to deny the criminal element the use of the roads. And that will come in and particularly useful, I think, no matter what force you're going for in the RPU, because it adds an extra layer, an extra dimension to your capabilities and the value that you're going to add. Remember, your application form is all about demonstrating the value that you're going to add to that team. And the only purpose of the application form is to get an interview, and the purpose of the interview is for you to demonstrate that you are going to add value to the team. All right, so this requires an element of proactivity, and it requires it now. Okay, now folks, now. So for the person who submitted it to me, I hope this has been useful for you. If you are not part of the group and you're a serving police officer, then please do check the link below. Make sure you answer the question, which is, persuade me that you're a serving police officer. You know what to do. You know how to persuade me you're a serving police officer. There's certain things that only police know. Specials, okay, you've got a different forum. PCSOs, you've got a different forum. A link below again. There's the Bluelight Police Recruitment and Career Advancement Facebook group. It's got almost 16,000 members. The one for police officers is relatively new, but it's pushing 3,000 members, which is pretty incredible in the space of less than 2 months. So this demonstrates to me that there actually is a need for this kind of vehicle to help support you in your career. And bearing in mind that a lot of the people in that group are people who've come through my services to help support them through the police recruitment process. Now we're taking things one step further to ensure that your career is not just successful, but is deeply fulfilling as well. All right, folks, that's enough for this video. I shall catch up with you soon. Let me know what you think of what I've just had to say there, and you know, something in the comments below, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. I do read them all, and I try and answer all of them whenever I can. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye for now.